Well, as you may have heard by now, our main anchor and newsroom leader, David Johnson, is retiring after tomorrow, and we continue our celebration of his 4-decade career tonight as he shares the stories that made us laugh, cry, and shout for joy.
We do have a crew there. We'll have the very latest ahead tonight at 6.
40 years, thousands of newscasts, and for David Johnson, countless stories told to audiences across the region.
Looking back, what are some of your favorite stories? What are the most memorable stories?
Well, I think by far number one is the Q Creek mine rescue. Rick Earl and I were out there almost the entire time. It started on a Wednesday, ended very early on a Sunday morning. It had it all. 9 miners trapped hundreds of feet underground. Water is coming toward them. They're running out of air. Will they be saved? The governor and the chief engineer from the state just made it their mission to do everything they could to get them. At one point, a couple days in, a drill bit broke, and they had to send out for a new drill bit. And everybody's thinking, well, now they're not going to survive. And the governor at the time, Mark Schweiker, he held news conferences in an old Giant Eagle that wasn't being used anymore in the produce section. That's where all the cameras are set up. And I think it was 12:45 or 1 a.m. on a Sunday. And he stands in front of the cameras and he says,
"All 9 are alive."
And we all erupted into cheers, and tears are rolling down some of our faces. It was so special because it had a happy ending. I loved that it had a happy ending. What about people on the ground?
There were also gut-wrenching stories that did not end as well. September 11th and the crash of Flight 93 into a field in Shanksville.
I do think about the heroes on that plane and how they had the wherewithal to make sure the plane didn't make it to Washington. So in that way, it was very, very special, but of course tragic that they all died. I just want to set the scene for where I am.
David was also outside the Tree of Life on that tragic day, there to keep viewers updated and to thank first responders.
Here's David Johnson of our Pittsburgh affiliate WPXI.
And there on the day the shooter was sentenced, reporting for NBC Nightly News to a national audience. During his 4 decades here, David has seen fire.
And firefighters called back to the ruins of the business.
There's been rain.
It was a storm that comes along only once every 500 years.
Historic flooding that ripped away at the fabric of some communities.
It's amazing how much damage water does. And we are prone to flooding with our hills and valleys, of course. But I'm amazed by people's resilience. Their homes are flooded, everything's ruined, they've lost everything, and they say, I'm not going anywhere, I love it here.
Winter storm warning set to begin in just a few hours. Good evening, I'm David Johnson.
And snow, lots and lots of it.
I think it was 1993, supposed to be the storm of the century. It's since been eclipsed many times.
It's hard to think back about favorite stories in the Pittsburgh area and not talk about the sports stories. I mean, the things that you have seen. What are some of your favorite moments?
Yeah, I just love when the Steelers go to the Super Bowl, and just the excitement on a Steelers weekend. Like going to Strip District, everybody's buying their Steelers gear, the terrible towels, watching Steelers fans in other cities where there's more Steelers fans in the stadium. The parades. The parades are really fun when the players are up on the back of a truck or whatever and waving a terrible towel. Even the Penguins players, when they're in their parade, have terrible towels. It's just great to see the fans and how much they love these teams.
There have been big gets, interviews with politicians and network stars, and even a national game show appearance with a $100,000 first place win. But the stories that David says he'll take with him are the ones shared by you, his viewers.
It's exciting to sit down with somebody famous, but inevitably I feel like, Joe and Betty down the street and what they're going through and the joys they may have or how they've persevered through tragedy is more important to me than interviewing a big name. But I think what really touches me is when someone loses a loved one. Sometimes they will contact us and they'll say, I want to tell you about my son. And they may have died the day before. And they describe how wonderful they were, what a great loss for the family and for the community. And I think that's really beautiful, that you want, in your grief, you want to tell everybody how great this person was.
We have a lot of different roles and a lot of different hats that we wear at any time, and some of it is, you know, strictly to give people the information. Some of it is holding their hands through a crisis.
You're right, you do have to hold their hand and say, all right, I'm going to do my best to help guide you through this. Here's what you need to know. Yes, this is bad, but hopefully it's going to get better. I get a little butterfly still once in a while, so. And I think that's a respect for live TV. What I've come to learn is, you know, don't take it for granted. You know, don't be overly serious. Don't be silly. You know, you have a responsibility to the viewers. Live up to it.
So well said. And the thing that comes so across is it's 40 years of putting in the work every day, but it's 40 years of compassion and empathy that you have shown toward others. And so I love you, David. I'm going to miss you. I know I keep saying it, but it's so true, and just a class act. You honor all of us.
Well, I really appreciate it. I must say it's weird to have a story done about you when you're the one who does the story. So that's still kind of strange to me, but I appreciate all the work that went into these stories, and great, great memories. Oh. And time now for a look at the weather. And Stephen, here we are. And I know you've lived through a lot of the stories I just described, and it's important to be connected with all of you. I feel honored to be with you here on the news desk and in this studio.
As we do as well, and it's when the camera is off that you're at your best too, David. Don't forget that. You behind the scenes are phenomenal.